Welcome, world. We're back at Everybody Struggles. We got another special guest, my good friend Maria. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with us and talk a little more a bit about yourself. The crazy thing is we've only known each other for a year. It's actually been a year. We met at Kayla's birthday party, but then also too, we got to really know each other during your workouts, the morning rise workouts. So I know a lot about you. The world doesn't. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you're currently working on.
I'm that lady Maria from Youngstown, Ohio. I am a former strength and conditioning coach. Been out in LA for about 3 years, currently working a sales job and building my brand.
Nice. So being that you're not from California, how was it growing up back home?
I'm from Northeast Ohio, where football is as much of a religion as it is down in the South. I grew up in Massillon, where my dad's football team played in front of 20,000 people.
That's crazy.
Totally crazy. And being 9 years old in that type of an environment, it really shaped the person that I am today. I was a little girl at the time. So people around town, if we lost the game, they'd be talking bad about my dad, and they wouldn't know that I was his daughter. So going to school and having to hear kids talk about the football program, grocery stores, my dad being in the papers every day, for sale signs put in our yard, bricks through our window. It was wild. And then for me to be on the field and to look up and see 18,000 people, 24,000 people, absolutely crazed.
Right. Sounds like a fun experience.
Yeah.
So now we want to jump into a little more deep, a little more about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the hardest thing you've ever dealt with in your life.
Growing up in a place like Massillon is something that prepared me for the woman that I am today. Growing up, trying to be a kid where I'm not a celebrity by any means, but I'm in the public spotlight in a sense because of my dad, because of our family. Our family stayed close, and certain things were hard. It was hard hearing people talk poorly about my dad. People can be nasty, hurtful, but it also just taught me how to focus, how to kind of block everything out that was going on around me, how to stay in my lane. And for me, I pursued a career in strength and conditioning. And as a female, you don't see females training football players often. There are some, but I really wanted that. So I went to do internships at Michigan, LSU. I was out in Montana, and kind of that same mentality. Massillon prepared me to know how to act, how to be a professional, and how to just work. And I've had to, because I've moved across the country, I've had to reset my life 4 or 5 times completely, build a new support system, move myself, look for an apartment, groceries. I mean, out here in LA, I have to drive a big truck for work. There's no parking. I had to learn the hard way. I ran over somebody's garbage can backing out because I couldn't see over the bed because I'm not tall enough. Getting to places early so that I could park my car, having to just really be my own person, rely on myself for everything, not having any support.
Right. So speaking on that support and, growing up, in the eye with your family, your dad coaching and everything, how did you learn to overcome those obstacles to kind of be where you are now?
That's where I take everything back to training and back to mindset. So I think one of the cool things about growing up in a football family is it teaches you every lesson that you could ever need to know in life. It teaches you family, loyalty, work ethic, determination, perseverance. It teaches you how to handle adversity, how to handle loss. And it goes beyond the wins and losses column. I mean, one of the programs that my dad coached at, there was a year where we lost 6 players and a coach. Dude, aneurysm, heat stroke. One almost passed, got beat up in an awful fight, got beat with a lead pipe at a party after the game. Motorcycle accident. Those things you know, especially backtracking, being in a place like Massillon where everybody only cares whether you win on Friday night.
Right.
And then you have to, you know, bury your strength coach or your GA or your player, your brother, you know. It really hits, and it makes you realize that sports are great, but it's really not everything. There's so much more. And that's really what football has done for me.
Right.
And so I take that everywhere that I go. It's when I'm faced with hard situations, I can put myself back to 2-a-day practices. Mm-hmm. I could put myself back to when we're in the weight room or when it's the off season, when we're trying to get big, when we're trying to get faster. Mm-hmm. And I take it minute by minute. I keep everybody out of my bubble. I stay in my lane, and I just work.
Man, I wish everybody had that same mentality. So what we want to do is we want to go a little more in depth into that and talk more about life struggles. So we talked about family. We talked about, you know, your dad and growing up in, you know, the football family and everything. But what are some of the life struggles that you've had to deal with?
I would say there have been challenges, I think, for me as a female, mm-hmm. just being in the football world, right. Being in the weight room. You know, they walk in and they see a 5'2" chick trying to tell them how to squat. Right. They're looking at me cross-eyed for a little bit, mm-hmm. and that's kind of why, again, going back to work ethic, if I'm training football players, if I'm training guys, like, I get out there and I do it with them. It's not about me trying to be stronger than them or trying to prove myself tough. It's just saying, hey, I can do this. I'm in here too. Right. And I try to earn respect that way. There have been a lot of amazing experiences that I've had being in the weight room at Michigan, mm-hmm. and then later when I was a little bit older, going back and being at LSU, and again, the growth in me in the process, being 19, thinking that you have to compete with everybody, trying to be the first intern in at 5:30 in the morning before mm-hmm. everyone gets there, working hard, and then just having more of an appreciation by the time that I turned 26 and I was down at LSU. Just, wow, I'm at LSU. I'm here. There are so many athletes that have gone here before me, coaches, the tradition, everything. I get to walk into Tiger Stadium every day, run the steps, watch the sunrise. It was just more of a gratitude and an understanding that I don't have to compete with anybody. I just have to be me. Yeah. And those things, I think, having to reset my life, having dreams of living in the mountains, moving to Montana by myself with my dog, into a place where, again, it's definitely uncommon to have a woman in the weight room, not really being fully a part of the culture of that team, right. because I was just the chick that would show up, you know, for the workouts. But you were there. And then again, having to reset my life going to LSU, mm-hmm. and then by the time I got to LA, honestly, moving to LA absolutely broke me, right. in every sense. I got out of coaching. I started working for a company that moved me out here. So mm-hmm. it was the first time where I went somewhere not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to, right. because I was placed here. And it was really hard. It was really hard. I came out here. I had 2 weeks. I packed up all of my stuff over the weekend. I flew as much as I could carry in 2 or 3 bags. Mm-hmm. I left it in Riverside, California. I had to fly back home for my cousin's wedding. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 weeks to pack up my apartment, left all of my belongings in Iowa, where I was currently training for the job that I'm working. And then I flew out. I had no place to stay. I had to stay in an apartment. It was the first time that I wasn't in a football family. Mm-hmm. And I was working where it was kind of every man for himself. Mm-hmm. You know, and not having that family, not having that team, not wanting to let my family know that I'm struggling. Right. I mean, not feeling prepared to do my job because I didn't feel like I had the training that I needed. There were times where, you know, I could walk in a weight room and I walk in like I own the place. There were times for this job where I would walk up to offices and I would walk up and I'd walk back to my car, mm-hmm. and I'd go up again and I go back to my car. And I'd call my mom and be like, Mom, what should I say? Like, how do I do this? What do I do? And then I'd go back, I'd reach for the door, take my hand back, run back to my car, run all the way home, cry the whole way. Again, not having the support. There were times where I remember I was looking at this apartment. It was on a really bad street. I had to let myself in. There was like intimate wear, ladies intimate wear, like outside the door, and I'm inside and I'm like, okay, could I live here? Could I do this? And then I'm thinking, if my dad saw me living here, he'd have something to say to me.
Flip out.
And I was like, what am I gonna do? I couldn't find an apartment. I had called and looked at like 50 or 60 places. It's a timing thing. Either too much money or you have to be ready to say yes right now. And I didn't know. And so I'm like, all right, I can just keep my stuff in a suitcase. I could go to my buddies in Arizona on the weekends, and I could just stay in hotels for work during the week and just do the job until I figure it out, right? And then drove back down the street, had to take a phone call. There are these guys working on this apartment. And I'm like, hey, who owns this apartment? They tell me, I call, they let me have it. And that's how my life's kind of worked out being in Los Angeles. In the beginning, the first 2 years, it was just me, myself, and I. It was a lot of tears. It was a lot of fears.
Right.
It was a lot of stepping outside my door in the morning without any confidence, without any self-efficacy, not knowing what to do. Everything was hard. I would even ask people for help, and they would just look at me and go, keep walking, you know? And then now I met a couple people. I met Nita, I met Tay, some incredible people that really welcomed me into their family. And that's exactly what I was missing. And my life is entirely different now.
So you kind of talked about my next question. What did you do to like overcome the new changes, the being alone, and like, you know, trying to find that family that you had?
And again, I'll take that right back to training. So my whole life, every time June and July roll around, it's football season.
Right.
We train for this. So I think that for me, I try to focus on things that are consistent in my life. One of those things is stadium steps. When I would travel for work, because I'm totally out here by myself. I have nobody talks to me. Nobody's text messaging me. Not anymore. This was before.
No.
But when times are tough, I find myself a hill or a set of stairs, because it's a place where even though there's a million things swirling in my mind, that's one thing that I know how to do. It's one constant, something that I can go back to, and the hill waits for me. Like whenever I show up, it's ready,
Right.
you know? And I'll go, I'll run, I'll work out some thoughts, and I'm like, okay, I just take it a little bit slower. So some of the things that I do when I need a little extra oomph is, again, I find a hill, I find a set of steps. Now I have so many wonderful people that I can talk to, that I can call up and say, hey, I need help. Asking for help is something that doesn't come easily to me. I think that being a figure in the weight room where people see how strong I am, sometimes people put that on me, or I put that onto me. And it's hard for me to ask for help, truly, because I'm almost like, is this okay for me? Is this that big of a deal? Right. Is it okay to talk about this? So that's one thing that I think has been really special about this year, is being able to call you up, call some of my girlfriends up and say, hey, I got this situation. I don't know what to do. Or I'm really struggling, just to say, hey, I'm hurting right now. Right. What do I do?
And look, you're doing it now. So my next question is, we're going to dig a little deeper. It's actually one of my favorite questions as far as like getting more in depth with the person. What are some of the daily struggles that you have that are kind of hindering you from your full potential?
I think for me personally, I'm always hard on myself. So that first and foremost, I think sometimes is giving myself a little bit more grace, embracing where I am. And I think that's one thing that's just becoming. I'm really excited about things being open and not fully having it figured out. I'm excited to struggle through things. And it's really just, having a newfound confidence, just in a different way, a more mature, a true hope and a confidence for,
Right.
I'm the type of person where I'm born for the adverse. Give me something hard, give me something difficult, give me something challenging. I thrive in that, I enjoy that. And before, there was more of an uncertainty or maybe just a little bit of a lack of confidence in myself. And now it's just more that whatever happens, even considering the year that we've had, nothing in life is certain. Not even the next minute, just now. All we have is now. And I try to talk to myself, tell myself when I'm feeling down, hey, you were born for this. You can do this now.
Right.
And that's what I try to focus on.
So because you're focusing on the now, what did you do to get there?
For me, I think it was just again, staying in my lane, turning off all of the noise going on around me, and being still. I'm also the type of person who I grind. I'm used to being in the weight room 15 hours a day, 6 months straight, Sundays off. I can do that. That's also a comfort for me. So what I've been trying to do lately is I've been trying to create the space for myself so that I have the freedom to think or just to kind of feel how I'm feeling. I try not to busy my life for the sake of being busy or finding something to do. I try to be more intentional with my time, more purposeful, so that I can make more of an impact in that way.
So my next question is, based off of all the things that you've been through now, what's your outlook on life?
Overall, my outlook is pretty positive. I have a real hope for that at times when we really need to come together, that we can, that we fight for each other, that we support each other, that we show up. That's what gives me hope to keep going, whether it's just the next hour, whether it's for a month, whatever.
Keep the marathon going. So then my next question after that is, what's your ultimate goal in life?
Ultimately, my goal in life is really just to help people. I like spreading joy. I like to see people smile. As a coach, I love watching people develop and grow. And I think in moving all over the country by myself, in having to create a support system, I've really come to appreciate just meeting people. I have so much family outside of my family now. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I love hearing people's stories. I love being a part of people's lives for whatever season that is, whether it's for a day, a minute, a month, a year. And they impact me, I impact them, and I try to support in any way that I can. And I keep walking forward with just a joy and a hope that I'm gonna run into somebody new tomorrow.
Oh, I love that. So my last and final favorite question is, if you were to give someone advice that looks like you or that have been through some of the same similar experiences as you, what would you tell them?
First, it sounds cliche, but I would say you are not alone. And I would say this is not that big of a deal. So sometimes it's hard for me to follow my own advice, but I usually tell people, hey, not every moment is a life-defining moment. Is this what's happening right now? Are you gonna remember this in a year, in 5 years? Most often, probably not. I know that when we're going through our lives, everything feels like a really big deal, but the truth of the matter is we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to get to where we're going, and it all takes time. And what's my timing might not be your timing. And I think that society can put all of these pressures and expectations on us. I mean, I know for me, I'm a late bloomer. I didn't leave home for a couple years after I graduated. Now, I've also moved myself across the country. You know what I mean? I don't have a house right now. I live in a small apartment where my bathroom is bigger than my kitchen. You know, things don't always go the way that we think, but it's not really about, life isn't about necessarily even making all of those things happen. It's just really having a joy and an appreciation for where you are now, because what you're doing now affects where you're gonna be.
Chain reaction.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us.
You're welcome.
Please follow her on social media and watch her on her journey. If you have any comments, questions, please go below. Thanks again for following Everybody Struggles.
I just want you to know